So I had so many thoughts running through my head, and I just wanted to just share a different perspective than what people are saying, in the New Age movement, how, we have to ascend. And I think even, I know that the Q channel talks about ascension. And, there's always a truth. And there's also a way of thinking that you experience the things that you believe, but it doesn't make it like absolute truth. And what I wanted to say from a Christian perspective is that we have ascended. We actually have been raised from the dead, and that we're seated in the heavenly realms. And really, we're seated in the throne room of God. And there really isn't like a higher place than that, So I find it interesting, um, especially like in a lot of stuff that I hear with like New Agers and Ascension and stuff, and, to keeping the vibe a certain way. And, there's no higher vibe when you forgive those who have harmed you. There's no higher vibe when you have let go of people who have passed on, and you are filled with joy and peace and happiness. And there's no higher vibe when you're not wrestling with guilt and condemnation for things that you've done in the past. And so, like, I feel like it's kind of like it's this idea, like this whole ascension thing, like we're just gonna, we're just gonna ascend to this place and people are gonna be left behind. It's so, that part about people being left behind is so like unloving. It's just unloving. We're not talking about people who, like in the new age, like how the new agers see it, like you have to reach a certain, level of vibe. And honestly, when I talk to like people or hear people talk like these new agers about, keeping your vibe and yada yada yada, like, you just like when you start asking them these things, these important things about like, forgiveness and letting go of past relationships and treating others with kindness. And some of them don't really have it down, but they're saying that like, oh, we have to stay in this place or whatever. It's like, no, you don't have to do anything, you're already there. Just accept that you're there. If you're in Christ, like you're there, you're already at the highest. Look how cute Magic is right now with his little feet. He's so cute. You're already at like, you're at the highest level of ascension that you can be. That's what Christ did. Excuse me, he elevated us to the throne room. And so when I hear this thing about ascension, it kind of reminds me of like levels of degrees of, of clubs and societies and stuff. And again, you have to do something to get in. You have to have the right vibe to get in. Christ is like, just trust me. You're in. And then how you grow after that, even if you don't look like a Christian, you just accept Jesus and you get up every day, you keep apologizing for the same things and do the same things over, he still accepts you. That's not how he created you to be. But I just find it interesting how all these different ways of thoughts, and I do believe that all the timelines are coming together. When I say timelines, like ways of belief and belief systems are merging into one timeline, and that is that Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus died on the cross and he was raised again. And I know some people don't believe that. I know some people are like, why would God sacrifice his own son? God didn't sacrifice his own son. Jesus went, and did it for the joy that was set before him. You have to remember something. God sees the end from the beginning. So he knew all about it. Like when he had this thought of man and creation, his best thinking of everything that he could create, because he wanted people to have a choice. He wanted to give them a choice. And so this is what his best thinking was, that there was going to come the Son of God to say, hey, you don't have to be perfect. God says you're perfect, but you don't have to do everything perfect. You're considered perfect already. So relax, breathe, okay, and find out who you are. You're just like me, and I'm just going to be the example for you here. I'm just going to show you how it's done, because you can't kill God. and they didn't kill God. And Jesus said some really important stuff. He said that he was the Son of God. He basically said he was God. I know that's hard for people, like, but like, if I say I'm Italian because my parents are Italian or my father's Italian, you'd be like, yeah, that's right, you're Italian. But Jesus can't say he's God because his father's God. Aren't ye? Doesn't it say in the Bible, ye are all gods, small g? So I do find it interesting. I'm very, accepting of other people's beliefs, and I think it still works. I think it works that you have to do things instead of being to do. And my dad, James Hatton, mhm, God bless him, he taught me this. My father taught me, is Teresa, you don't do to be, you be to do. That's a Selah. Just think about that. You be to do. You have to know who you are first. You have to know where you sit first. And when you do that, you'll just naturally vibe higher. That's because you accept who you are. That's part of identification of, identity is knowing who you are. And, this whole idea like that we're trying to get somewhere, and, this idea too, like with the bloodlines and stuff. And I think the whole thing with the bloodlines, I think it's like a reality. I don't think it's the truth. I just don't. I think that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And I think that that is the reality. Because I hear this, people saying this too, like, like the bloodlines, and Jesus married Mary Magdalene and they had kids and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, they taught Christ consciousness. Well, I didn't learn anything about Christ through any of that. If I waited for that, I would have missed the boat. I learned I learned about Abba and Christ through God Himself. That's where I learned about it. I did a lot of reading of the scriptures and then asked questions and got answers. I'm still getting answers, and I'm somebody when I was raised, I was taught that I was just garbage and that I was selfish and that I was never going to really amount to anything. And I don't think my parents meant to do that. They did it by, very harsh discipline, and I wouldn't even call it discipline, it was abuse and just name calling and putting labels on me. I mean, I wasn't considered very bright by my family, and that doesn't matter to me, but I was also somebody who was like considered like that, I would have to be looked out for, because I just didn't have it together or whatever. And I've been on my own since I'm 18, and the Lord has done a really good job taking care of me. I'm 60 now, and I've maintained at least life from here. And when I say maintain, I didn't do it. He did it, So I find it all very interesting, and it's like, what's going to come now? Like, are Jesus and Mary going to appear now? Is that what we're going to see? Jesus and Mary going to appear and teach Christ consciousness when Christ is already in you, when the Spirit has been poured out on all flesh? Is that what's coming down the pike? I mean, I don't know. One of the promises is in the book of John is that He will manifest Himself to you. And I remember when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, God, Jesus is going to manifest Himself to me. And I actually spent time with Him for hours at a time, face to face. No words, no communication, just all heart to heart. And I didn't want to leave Him, And when you experience that kind of love from somebody, when you have that experience, it kind of ruins all these narratives. It's just like, oh, okay, well, you can go with that, but do you know Him? It's like, I feel like a lot of the narratives are always having to try to get you to get something, and you're just like waiting to get something. It's like, oh, it's coming, and you have to work for it, and you have to keep your vibe up. If you accept that Jesus is the Son of God and He's living inside of you, He'll fix your vibe for you. He will. And He doesn't care if your vibe is low. Do you know His promises are still good even if your vibe is low? So like, I feel like it's the vibe religion. It's like, oh, we're all against religion and religion is Satan, but now we have this vibe religion or we have this Christ conscious religion. It's so weird to me. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and I'm happy in Christ. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. I'm growing into the fullness, into the full stature of Jesus Christ Himself, and He accepts me. He accepted me from before I was born. Um, from before the foundations of the world, I was with Him, and I went with Him to the cross, and I was killed on the cross and then raised to new life in Him, and I'm okay with that. To me, it's easy. And He helps me no matter what. He helps me. If I'm not in a good mood or a bad mood, I just say, Lord, I need help with this or whatever, or I tell Him everything. I don't have to keep my vibe to have a relationship with Jesus. And yet, it's that relationship that changes my energy in my body. Blessings.